You downsize to an apartment to make life simpler and cheaper. There's a bill nobody warned you about, and it can cost you more than the house you just left. It's called Strata, the body corporate. And today, you're going to see how the low-maintenance apartment, the lock-and-leave dream sold to every retiree, hides a maintenance bill you don't set, can't predict, and are not allowed to refuse. I went through the Strata laws, the levy data across every capital city, and the special levy cases that have hit owners with tens of thousands of dollars overnight. Because on a fixed income, this is the one cost that can quietly blow your whole budget. A quarterly fee that rivals what a house costs to run. And, lurking behind it, a surprise bill that can land in 5 figures with no warning at all. You did the sensible thing. You sold the big house with its gutters and its garden, and you bought the neat, modern apartment to cut your costs and your worries. And here's what nobody told you. That apartment can cost you as much to hold as the house did, sometimes more. And unlike the house, where every dollar of spending was yours to decide, here you don't control a single cent of it. Quick, honest note before we start. This is market analysis, not legal or financial advice. Before you buy into any building, get the records checked by your own professional. So let's start with what Strata actually is, because most people sign up for it without ever understanding what they've joined. When you buy an apartment, you don't just buy the apartment. You buy your unit and a share of everything else. The roof, the lifts, the lobby, the pipes in the walls. The pool nobody uses. All of it is common property, owned collectively by every owner in the building, and run by a body corporate that you are now automatically a member of. And to pay for all of it, you pay a levy every quarter, for as long as you own the place. Now, the picture in your head was simple. No lawn to mow, no gutters to clean, no roof to replace, so surely the costs go down. That's the whole pitch, lock and leave. Low maintenance, lower cost. And it is, quietly, the wrong way round. Because the Strata levy doesn't remove those costs, it bundles them. The building insurance, the gutter cleaning, the repainting, the fire safety system, the shared power, all of it, rolled into one quarterly bill. And that bill is not small. For a standard apartment in a capital city, you're looking at somewhere between $1,000 and $3,000 every quarter. In a Melbourne tower with lifts, $5,000 to $9,000 a year before a single surprise. And it's compulsory. Miss it, and they charge you interest. Then they take you to court. Then they put a lien on your home. For a retiree who never once sat down and added up what the old house actually cost to run, that levy doesn't feel like a swap. It feels like a brand new bill that appeared from nowhere. And the experts have a name for it. They call Strata the most shocking hidden expense in the whole downsizing story. But that quarterly levy, as big as it is only the part they tell you about up front. It's built from 3 pieces, and the third one is where the real danger hides. Because 2 of those pieces keep the lights on. The third can land on your doormat as a demand for $30,000. That quarterly levy is built from 2 funds. And the difference between them matters, because one keeps the building alive, and the other is supposed to stop the disaster we'll get to in a minute. The first is the administration fund. This is the day-to-day. The cleaning, the shared electricity, the building insurance, the fire safety checks, the Strata manager who runs the paperwork, the caretaker who changes the lobby light bulbs. Everything the building spends just to exist, week to week, comes out of this fund. And you pay your share every quarter. The second is the Capital Works Fund, the sinking fund. Think of it as the building savings account for the big jobs that are coming, whether anyone likes it or not. The new roof in 15 years, the repaint in 10, the lift that will, one day, need replacing. You pay into it slowly, now, so that when the giant bill arrives, the money is already there. That's the theory. Hold that thought, because when this fund runs dry, everything changes. Together, those 2 funds are your quarterly levy. And for a typical 2-bedroom apartment in 2026, that's $2,500 to $6,000 a year. In a premium building in Sydney or Melbourne, $6,000 to $12,000 and up. Put that in plain terms. $100, $200, sometimes $300 a week, every week. for the rest of your life in that apartment. And here's the trap built specifically for retirees. The apartments marketed to you are the resort-style ones, the lift, the pool, the gym, the concierge smiling in the lobby. And every single one of those features is a line on your levy. The pool nobody swims in still needs heating, chemicals, fencing, and cleaning. All year. Forever. Over a decade, that amenity-rich apartment can cost you $20,000 more in levies than a plain block down the street. You paid a premium for the lifestyle. Now you pay a premium every quarter just to keep it running. And it only ever climbs. Levies have been rising 8 to 15% a year, far faster than your pension, far faster than inflation pushed up by insurance and building costs that never come back down. Strata fees are almost never cut. So picture it. Your income, flat. Your levy, a staircase. Every year, the gap between them widens, and it comes out of the same fixed budget. So let's answer the question the brochure refuses to. Is the apartment actually cheaper to hold than the house you left? Do the maths. A paid-off house, for someone over 60, costs maybe $4,000 to $8,000 a year to run the rates, the insurance, the occasional repair. A premium apartment's levy alone can match that or beat it. You sold the house to escape its costs. You may have simply bought bigger ones and let someone relabel them fees. But everything so far is the bill they show you up front. The quarterly levy is at least predictable. You can budget for it, brace for it. The third piece is not. It's on no schedule. It arrives the day something breaks that the sinking fund can't cover. And it can be the single largest bill of your entire retirement. The third piece is the special levy, and it is the villain of this whole story. Here's how it works. When the building needs a major repair and the funds don't have enough to pay for it, the body corporate votes to raise the missing money by charging every owner a one-off levy on top of the fees you already pay. There is no secret account it comes from. It comes from you, directly, into your bank account, out the other side. And the jobs that trigger it aren't freak accidents. They're the certainties of owning a slice of an aging building. The waterproofing, that finally fails. The concrete that starts to crack, they call it concrete cancer. The lift that reaches the end of its life. The cladding that has to be stripped off for fire safety. Every building meets these eventually. The only question is whether the money's there when it does. And the bills are enormous. A waterproofing job, $5,000 to $20,000 per apartment. Structural repairs, the concrete cancer, $10,000 to $40,000. Cladding rectification, $10,000 to $50,000 and up. And here's the cruel twist in the maths. The smaller the building, the worse it is for you, because the cost is split between fewer owners. These aren't the horror stories. This is the normal range. Let me make it real. In one documented case, a man bought his apartment, moved in, settled into retirement, and then opened a bill for $52,000 for building defects he never created and never solved. To pay it, he had to drain his superannuation. His retirement savings gone to repair a building he'd owned for barely a year. And he is not rare. Owners across the country have been hit with $20,000, $50,000, $90,000, often with a few weeks' notice, not a few years. And here's the part that turns a big bill into a trap. You cannot say no. Once that levy is voted in, it is a legal debt, not a quote you can decline, not a tradesman you can send away. Don't pay it, and they charge you interest. Then they take you to court. Then they secure the debt against your home. And in the worst cases, that ends in your home being sold out from under you. A bill you didn't ask for, couldn't predict, and may even have voted against can still take your house. So here's the single most important thing in this entire video. A special levy is almost never bad luck. It is the delayed bill for years of fees that were kept too low. Which means that building down the road with the suspiciously cheap strata fees, that is not a bargain. That is a bomb with the timer hidden. The low levy today is the giant levy tomorrow, just wearing a disguise. Cheap fees aren't a feature. Very often, they're a warning. Which leaves one obvious question. If the sinking fund exists precisely to stop all of this, to have the money ready before the bill arrives, then why are so many of them sitting empty? The answer is two forces, both pushing the same way and both getting worse every single year. Those two forces are insurance and neglect. And together, they turn a possible special levy into an inevitable one. The first force is insurance. Every strata building must carry one giant policy covering the whole structure, and you pay your share of it every quarter, buried inside your admin fund. It's compulsory. You can't shop around, you can't opt out. And in recent years, that premium has climbed hard. Strata insurance rose around 15 to 20% nationally in a single year. And further still for buildings with a bad claims history pushed up by water damage, storms, and flammable cladding. It's eased off lately, to a couple of percent a year, but only after stacking increase on top of increase. And here's the sly part. There is no separate bill marked insurance. The building pays the premium, then quietly recovers it from you through your levy. So when the premium jumps, what you actually see is your quarterly fee jumping, and you may never be told why. The second force is quieter and worse. The sinking fund, the one that's meant to fill up so the big bills are covered, sits half empty in building after building. Now, the law does try. Since 2009, every strata scheme in the country has been required to have a 10-year plan for these major works. But read the fine print, and you find the trap. Schemes are obliged to plan, not truly to fund. The wording is so far as practicable, and there's no real penalty for setting the levies too low. So owners vote year after year to keep the fees down because low fees feel good now, and they make the building look cheap to the next buyer. The plan exists on paper, the money does not. One recent case found a building with no working sinking fund at all, despite the law requiring one. And here's how they feed each other. The rising insurance eats into the budget, so either the fees climb just to stand still, or the sinking fund gets starved to pay for it. Meanwhile, the building keeps aging, so you end up with the perfect storm. An old building, a thin fund, an insurance bill that won't sit still, and a major repair that is absolutely coming. In a building like that, the special levy isn't a risk. It's a date one nobody's told you yet. And don't assume a brand new building saves you. This is the trap inside the trap. Time is undefeated, and an older building, by law, needs a bigger fund. Because its waterproofing, its concrete, its lifts are all marching from routine maintenance toward expensive replacement. A shiny new building hides this beautifully. Everything works, the fund looks healthy, the levy looks low. But new is one of the most dangerous words in strata. New buildings carry the newest defects and the emptiest sinking funds, and the bill for both tends to arrive just a few years in, right when you've settled in and stopped worrying. So the bill is coming, and if you know where to look, you can see it coming. Which raises the question that makes retirees angrier than any other. If I can see it, why can't I stop it? Why am I, an owner, paying my levy every single quarter, so completely powerless over a bill that could one day take my home? Here's the uncomfortable answer. You're powerless because the system is technically democratic, and that democracy is exactly what traps you. Every levy, including the big special one, gets voted on. That sounds fair, but you are one owner among dozens, sometimes hundreds. The strata manager drafts the budget, a committee reviews it, and it passes on a simple majority. So if the majority votes for a $50,000 repair, you pay your share even if you voted against it, even if you can't afford it, even if you think it's wrong. You had a vote. You never had a veto. And the moment it passes, it stops being a bill and becomes a legal debt. You can't refuse it in protest. You can't withhold it over a dispute. The law on this is blunt. Short answer, no. Don't pay, and the interest starts, the court follows, and the debt fixes itself to your home. Your rights here are thin. Ask questions before the vote, or fight a broken process in a tribunal afterwards slow, costly, and rarely a clean escape. So who is actually steering this multi-million-dollar asset that your home now sits inside? Often, a handful of volunteer owners on a committee. No training, a budget bigger than most small businesses. Sometimes they're fair and engaged. Sometimes the whole thing is run by one or two forceful personalities like a private kingdom. And sometimes this is the one to watch. There's a quiet conflict of interest. A committee member just a little too friendly with the contractor who keeps winning the jobs. And then there's the strata manager, the professional who arranges your insurance, your contracts, your repairs. Investigations have pulled the lid off a system riddled with hidden commissions and kickbacks. Managers quietly paid by the very insurers and tradesmen they're meant to be getting you the best price from. So when your premium jumps, you're left to wonder, is that the market? Or is that someone's commission tucked invisibly into your levy? It got bad enough that regulators have started banning some of those payments outright. And remember who walks into all of this. Someone who spent 50 years in a house where every decision about their home was theirs and theirs alone. They sold it for simplicity and stepped into a world of meetings, motions, bylaws, and legal debts they'd never once had to think about. They didn't shed their responsibilities. They handed them to a committee and a manager and kept the bill. Now let me be fair, because this is not a scam, and I won't pretend it is. Strata exists for a real and sensible reason. You cannot insure half a roof, or run your own lift, or fix a shared wall alone. Pooling the money is the only sane way to keep a shared building standing. And when it's done well, a sound building, an honest committee, a funded plan, a straight manager strata is genuinely good. The compliance gets handled. The big jobs get budgeted, not sprung on you. The lift gets serviced, and you never lift a finger. Strata isn't the villain. It's a tool. A good one, in the right building. Which means the real danger was never Strata itself. It was buying into the wrong one, the overpriced, badly run, underfunded one without ever looking under the bonnet. And here's the cruel part. From the lobby, the good building and the trap look identical. The difference is buried in the records, and almost nobody reads them. But for the retiree who gets it wrong, who buys the trap, the cost isn't only money. It's a specific, cruel kind of stuck. Because a bill you can't pay, in a home you suddenly can't sell, has a way of closing in from both sides at once. It closes in from both sides at once. Here's what that actually feels like. Picture a retired couple, both on the age pension, who open an envelope from the body corporate. Inside is a special levy, $44,000, for window upgrades across the building. They don't have $44,000. On a fixed income, they never will. They ask for a payment plan, and it stretches the agony out, but the debt doesn't shrink, and the interest only grows. That's not a hypothetical. That's a real Sydney couple whose own financial counselor warned they could be bankrupt within weeks. And if you can't pay, the body corporate does not wait politely. In another real case, a couple who couldn't cover a $20,000 levy had a garnishee order placed on their property. The body corporate simply reached in and took the income to cover the levy and the legal fees, and quietly pushed them out of their own home. So you think, fine, I'll sell. I'll get out from under it. And that's where the second wall slides shut. Because the moment that levy is written into the meeting minutes, every buyer's solicitor will find it. A flag special levy means up to a third fewer buyers even inquire. The ones who do offer less. And the apartment that should have sold in a month sits there for 3. The bad strata report is a scarlet letter. The very thing that makes it unaffordable to stay is the exact thing that makes it impossible to leave. And if that shape sounds familiar, it should. We've watched it twice before on this channel, the retirement village, where the exit fee devours your capital on the way out. The land lease community, where the rising rent that squeezes you is the same thing that frightens off your buyers. And now, Strata. 3 different models, 1 identical trap. A cost you can't escape, and a home you can't easily leave. But Strata has a sting all its own. In the other 2, you at least knew you were renting something. Here, you own your home. Outright. You paid it off. And a committee of strangers can still vote you a 5-figure bill that takes it away. And the cruelest part isn't the money, it's what it does to a person. The owners caught in this describe the same things, over and over, the sleepless nights, the dread when an envelope from the body corporate appears in the letterbox, the savings they'd set aside for the grandkids bleeding away on lawyers and levies. This was meant to be the calm chapter, the simple one, the reward at the end. Instead, it became an ambush in the one place they should have felt safest. But hold on to this, because I am not here to scare you out of ever owning an apartment. Every one of these stories shares a single root, not bad luck, not a cursed building. A set of warning signs that were sitting in the Strata records the whole time before anyone bought that nobody read. The trap is real, but it is also, almost always, completely avoidable. And avoiding it costs a few $100s in one quiet afternoon. So before you ever sign for an apartment, or if you're already in one, and that envelope in the letterbox is exactly what you're afraid of, there's a short list of documents to read and a handful of questions to ask that tell you whether you're buying a home or buying a trap. That's where we finish. Here's the short list, the quiet afternoon that saves you from all of it. Before you sign a single thing, you get a Strata search. For $200 to $400, a professional walks into the building's records, the very ones nobody reads, and pulls out everything the sales agent will never tell you. That one document is the entire difference between buying a home and buying a trap. And you're hunting for specific things. First, the Capital Works Fund balance. Is there real money saved in there, or is it running on empty? Second, the levy history. Has it risen gently over the years, or jumped 15% in a single one? Third, the special levy history. Has this building already struck them and are more being quietly foreshadowed in the minutes? And fourth, those minutes themselves, several years of them, read for the words that give a building away. Leak, concrete, lift, funding, dispute. Because a healthy building reads calm. A trap reads stressed. And a handful of things should stop you where you stand. A fund in deficit, a pattern of small, repeated special levies that's chronic underfunding wearing a disguise. Frequent water damage claims, minutes thick with conflict, and meetings canceled because nobody could be bothered to turn up. Any one of those, and you either walk away or you walk in with both eyes open. Now, if you're watching this from inside an apartment you already own, hear this. You are not powerless. Go to the meetings. Better still, get onto the committee because the engaged buildings are the solvent ones, and the sleepy ones are where the bombs get built. Push for a real, properly funded 10-year plan. And resist the vote every single year to push the levies down to save a bit now, because every dollar saved today is the special levy handed to you tomorrow. In Strata, the boring, well-funded building is the safe one. And if all of this has made you wary, good. That's the right instinct, because you never had to buy the resort tower with the pool and the concierge in the first place. A simple, low-amenity block, no lift, no pool, fewer things that can break, carries a fraction of the levy. A townhouse with a small-body corporate, smaller still. The sweet spot in retirement is almost never the building with the most features. It's the one with the fewest surprises. And there's one last piece, the one that turns all of this from a property decision into a retirement decision. Your Strata levy is a bill the pension system pretends doesn't exist. The age pension will not rise by a single dollar to help you pay it. So a couple paying $8,000 a year in levies feels a squeeze that a couple in a low Strata townhouse on the exact same pension simply never feels. Which means the real question was never, can I afford this levy today? It's what does a rising, uncontrollable levy do to my pension budget over the next 20 years? And that question, how a single housing choice quietly reshapes your pension, dollar by dollar, is exactly what we map out, step by step, over on Aussie Senior Finance. If you're weighing up an apartment for your retirement, watch that one before you sign anything. Because the low-maintenance dream can be real, but only if you do the one thing almost nobody does before they buy. You read the records.